Fuck happiness. Stay angry. So, I don't know what it is with motherfuckers thinking that you should be happy. Whoever said that you should be fucking happy?
Are you guys happy? Are you happy? Are you happy? Who even said you're supposed to be happy? Certainly not me. Sorry, I really have nothing to talk about tonight. We're just showing up. I know I'm 5 minutes late. I'm doing shit. I don't know if you guys ever consider the fact that, I'm a single father of 2 teenage boys who takes care of everything from cooking and cleaning and working and taking care of everything for everybody all by myself. Plus, I'm into motorcycles and do motorcycle stuff as a hobby. Plus, I do these chats. Like, my God, man. Sometimes I feel like I need a break.
You're amazing.
Hey, I appreciate that. But Jesus, man. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, as my mother used to say when she was upset. But how you guys doing tonight? Ohio Patriot, you're here. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing about as good as I can. Bunch of inflammation kicking up in my system right now because of medication not kicking in the way it needs to.
Well, fuck happiness.
Stay angry.
Lawfully Armed, how's it going, man?
I'm great. Had a wonderful day with the family. Water park.
Dude, they're changing the concealed carry laws in Colorado, whereas before it was like a 3-hour class or something like that you would have to take that cost not that much money, to now it's like a 2-day fucking 16-hour course with the live fire training that you have to go through and qualify and blah, 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 blah.
Poll tax.
I think it's either like today or tomorrow is the last day of the old rules before the new rules come into effect. So all the fucking gun shops around here are like fucking flooded with people who don't want to have to go through the fucking rigmarole.
Was you one of those people?
No, not me. Not me, of course.
Grandfather.
I just think it's kind of funny that, they continually keep changing the laws in Colorado. Like, oh, you can't have this and you can't have that. And now this costs this and there's a 3-day wait period and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, now check the crime statistics. After you passed all those laws and all those things are in effect and now you're making it harder for people to fucking have concealed carry weapons licenses. How are the fucking crime stats looking in Denver? Oh my God, they're the worst they've ever been. And on top of them being the worst that they've ever been, it turns out that a lot of crimes aren't even getting reported because police don't show up to crimes for like 5 fucking hours. So what's the point of even calling them? So yeah, there's Denver's. I don't know, man. How are things where you guys are at? Are you guys in big cities or near big cities? I know you're not Technical Muffin Top. You're in the middle of a cornfield.
I have fucking big cities around me, you dick. But no, they're not that big. Like 50,000 people.
Yeah, the local corn silo doesn't count.
Yes, it does.
It depends on what you consider like a major city in the state of Ohio, because we have like technically like about 8 or 9 that could be considered like major or like mid-sized cities.
I'd say like a million plus people would be a pretty decent sized city. Like
okay,
if there's
it's way less than that here. So
yeah, I don't want that many people in my state, bro.
Denver's about like 2 million, something like that. If you consider actually, that's a good question. Population of Denver metro. I like.
While you're looking that up, there's like 5.5 million people in the entire state of Arkansas.
Denver metro. You kind of tailed off there. Didn't hear what you said.
I said while you're looking that up, there's like 5.5 million people in the entire state of Arkansas. And then I kind of ended because I thought, well, maybe after this last census, which I haven't looked up, it may be more. It may be 6 million now. I don't know.
The population of the Denver metro area is approximately 3 million people as of 2025, based on recent estimates. That sounds about right. Okay, what percentage is Hispanic?
60.
I bet it's like 40.
I'll take those odds.
This says 22. That's bullshit.
Because they didn't all come out and get counted for the census.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're saying 22%, but 22% of 3 million people is still almost 700,000 fucking people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot. Like, how many of those do you think are illegal? Like, what percentage of Hispanic people are illegal in this country?
95%.
No, not even.
Nah, seriously, it's probably like 25% or something. You might guess.
All Hispanics? Or
You'd probably say like 60.
See, I
are
don't
you
believe
saying all Hispanics?
all of these numbers are skewed because they're provided by the government. It's like, oh yeah, we created this problem and we're trying to hide it, but we'll give you some data so that you can like reference it. This is saying approximately 13% of the Hispanic population in the U.S. is undocumented. So if we go by those numbers, right, let's do some math here. And this, I think, would be pretty conservative. So we're going 13% times, oops, excuse me, that's 13%, not 13. 0.13 times 700,000. Meaning there's roughly 100,000 illegal immigrants in the Denver metro area that are probably going to get deported pretty soon, based upon the. Did you guys see the Supreme Court basically fucking slam dunking the lower courts for Trump? Because there's all these lower courts who have been slapping injunctions on decisions that are made by the federal government, by the president of the United States, and some fucking lowly federal district court judge has, he thinks, the right because he's an activist to come in and stop the tyrant, the fucking oligarch Trump from doing something that, you know. So they basically overstep the bounds of the laws of the court that they sit in as a means to get back at the president that they hate, right? And yeah, so now they're all slapped down and they can't do that shit anymore. So I wonder what tactic they're going to use next. Obviously, I guess the next tactic would be violence. If you can't win it in the courts, you win it in the streets. If you can't fucking win it with words, you win it with a baseball bat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably coming still, especially with summer still heating up. How are things weather-wise in your area? Is it fucking riot season yet?
It was very hot last week, and it's been a little bit mild in the last couple of days, but it's still kind of humid.
Yeah, we don't really have riot season here, so.
I say it's hot, but they don't do that here.
Dino, you are correct. He says, I thought the court ruled that the injunctions can only take place in the districts, not nationwide. So the Supreme Court basically ruled that the courts have to rule on what is before them. They can't rule on something that is not inside of their court. You know, like if it's some nationwide injunction, for instance, like you can't fucking rule what goes on in Ohio from Colorado. You can only, as a Colorado Supreme, like federal court justice or whatever. I don't know how it works exactly, dude. Honestly, I'm bullshitting right now. I don't fucking know how it works.
Which is why everybody needs to be careful buying FRTs outside of the Fifth Circuit.
Oh, that's a fucking great point. Like that sets some precedents that this might actually be used in a way that fucking makes it bad for people, because if you're in a certain district and then the district court judge rules that for this district that this thing is now legal, well, they're ruling for their constituent. They're, you know, like they're following the rules that the Supreme Court set down. But doesn't that go against Heller? And doesn't that go against what was it? Bruin? The Bruin and Heller decision? And how did they keep going after AR-15s in light of that?
Because they're doing a bunch of unconstitutional shit. Going back to your original thing about violence or how things are going in states and whatnot. Since Ohio passed constitutional carry, 6 of our 8 major cities in this state have seen violence reduction like crazy.
Yeah, because the criminals are afraid of getting shot in the fucking face for stealing a purse. They're like, is it really worth it to die over a purse? You know, it was worth it when the thought that you would get shot would be pretty low because it's not constitutional carry. Not every granny's going to be carrying a gun. But yeah, and so the only thing you had to worry about was like the judge and the fucking DA going after you. But we all know that there's Soros bought out who were trying to like destabilize the country anyway by letting these criminals go. So they really had nothing to worry about. Now they have death to worry about, which is a pretty big consequence.
You seen the ongoing situation out of Idaho today?
No, what's going on in Idaho today?
Somebody started a wildland brush fire, and then when the firefighters showed up, they started shooting at them.
Dang, I did see something about that, but I hadn't heard more about it.
They've shot a bunch of firefighters and cops, and the sheriff sounded like he didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, but he did a really extremely basic press conference about 3 hours ago saying basically they didn't know if they had one or multiple shooters. They had 2 dead, but he wouldn't say who. Like, he wouldn't say if they were just regular outdoorsmen or if they were firefighters or police. And he's said that they hope to bring it to an end quickly because if not, it would turn into a multi-day scene. And
So
he
she-
kept reiterating.
Oh, good.
He kept reiterating that they were going to. How do you word it? Terminate the suspect. Well, that wasn't exactly his words, but
Unalive, I think, is the internet term.
Annihilate.
yeah,
Unalive.
that was the strong inference.
Blah, blah, blah. Chasing Ghost says that sniper is what the news is saying. So they're saying that like some guy with a sniper rifle or who is sniper trained. I wonder if it's some sort of ISIS or Iran connected fucking person who's upset about either Gaza or what's going on in the Middle East, or who knows? It could be a fucking Russian at this point. Like with how many fucking, I mean, like Trump is trying to stop all these wars, but he's also kind of got us involved in all these wars tacitly. Not in fucking Ukraine, obviously, and not with Gaza as much, other than the fact we were like trying to provide aid or whatever. But when it comes to Iran, yeah, we fucking drop bombs on them, and they're gonna be pissed. And there's people who are from Iran who live here in the United States currently, who have allegiance to Iran, not the United States. And we just drop bombs on the country they have allegiance to. And some of these people, presumably, probably have training of some kind, right? They didn't just come here from Iran by accident. Maybe Iran specifically sent them here because Iran is known to have supplied and trained and fucking funded terrorism before in the world. Why would that change now, especially when they've had the opportunity under 4 years of Biden to let as many people into the country as they could possibly process? Let's not forget when they were writing the bill to like shore up the southern border. If you read it, it was really a bill that would allow them to process more people into the country more quickly because that's what they wanted to do and that's what they were interested in doing. And now we're seeing the fruits of that. I think it was a two-pronged fucking attack, right? Because number one, you get those people in the country. Most of them, if and when they get the right to vote, are going to vote for Democrats because, let's face it, that's the way that immigrants vote.
Mhm.
But also the demographic change when you do the census and how the senators and House of Representatives are allocated. We all know that story, yada, yada, yada. But in case you lose, in case things go badly, in case you don't get your way, you've got this entire population of millions of people that you can just weaponize and activate at any point because they're not working and they're not here to fucking work. They're here for free handouts, and as soon as those handouts run out, they know what they're here to do next. And that's destroy this fucking country.
And then, of course, you got pieces of shit like the guy running for New York City mayor, who's admitted he's basically attacking white rich people at this point for taxation if he would win.
Well, I mean, why would you shoot at the fire department chasing Ghost? Well, maybe because if you set fires and then the fire department shows up and you start shooting at the fire department, eventually when you start a fire, no one's going to show up. And then you get to burn everything down. Seems like a great fucking way to burn everything down. Think about this. How hard is it to build a house? You know, it takes dozens of people and specialized training with fucking materials from all around the world that are produced and brought together in a timely manner and are a schedule with fucking regulations and rules and inspections and permitting and all of these things that go into building a house, right? And then a can of gasoline and a match, and it's back to fucking square fucking one, dude. It's so easy to destroy a house. It's so easy to destroy an apartment complex or an apartment building or an office building or a building or any kind, really. Right? I mean, unless they're made out of fucking concrete and steel. Oh, wait, 9/11. Never mind. You just got to hit it with a plane, and then it's okay.
Thermite.
Are you trying to tell me that 9/11 couldn't happen, Honda?
Well, there's exactly 3 buildings in the history of humanity that have fallen down due to fire that were made of steel reinforced concrete. And all 3 of them were in New York City on 9/11/2001.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, there's a building in South America, in Brazil, I believe, that was like 120 stories high or something like that. Started a fire on like the 32nd floor, let's say. I'm not sure about the floor, but fairly low down on the fucking building. And then the fire suppression system broke and it burned like a candle, right? It just burned from the middle up and like fucking spread floor by floor by floor by floor until it engulfed the entire building in fire. Burned for over 24 hours to do this, right? Reaching temperatures presumably as hot or maybe even hotter than what happened at 9/11 inside of those buildings. And the building never fell. So, yeah, I think if you look into it, the more you look into a lot of conspiracy theories, dude, the more you realize, like, the government has been lying to us at very minimum. The truth has been withheld. The true motives, the true actions behind the things that we've seen as historical events in this country have all been lies. I mean, think about the news and current events that you read about in CNN or whatever, and how off of the mark and how skewed their view is and how different from reality what they're writing is to what reality reflects. And then think about if they're getting current events that wrong, if the current events they can't even fucking get the right flavor of, how do you think history is? Do you think they wrote the history down correctly? Why is it the good guys always win? In history, every single time, miraculously, the good guys won.
Because the victor gets to decide what is history.
Exactly.
Yep, and they get to paint the other person, the other group, as the fucking bad guys, as the evil ones, as the heretics, as the whoever, and so you justify in killing them. You dehumanize, which is exactly what is happening in this country right now to a certain group of people. even though we're told that we have all of these privileges and all of these rights that no one else has, and how easy it is for us to get along in society, and how, oh, don't you feel awesome about like when you get pulled over that you don't have to fear getting killed by the police? It's like, well, if I acted shady and started reaching for things and had a gun on me and pulled it on the cop and then got killed, I would think that's probably my fault, right? Am I wrong about that? But no, they're wrong. And then the other thing is like they can't understand statistics. They don't understand averages. They don't understand that like when one group has a higher average fucking crime rate, but my cousin Tommy is black and he's never committed a crime. Yeah, it's called an average, and you're too stupid to fucking know that. So
They don't get per
that
cow.
part
That's
too.
what it is.
That standard deviation below fucking average intelligence that's required to fucking follow written instructions that anyone below an IQ of 90 can't seem to fucking figure out. So, yeah, there's, what is it, 33% to 50% of the population of this country currently today does not have an inner monologue as they walk around. They don't have a voice in their head. They don't have a fucking conversation going on. They don't have an argument. They don't have a second guessing voice that comes in and says, are you sure you're right? Or did you do the right thing there? You know, there's no conscience. Isn't that crazy? I think that's crazy. But then I was thinking about this. That doesn't necessarily denote that they're like IQ. Like it could. It could very well be that a bunch of those people are just too fucking stupid to have the inner dialogue, right? But then I was thinking, like, there's probably a fair amount of people who were just like so smart that they don't think in words. They think in like shapes and objects and fucking like meaning and stuff like that, or are really, really good at math and they're just like fucking autistic. So like when it comes to like social interactions, they're just like fucking retarded, but they can like decode some like fucking Albert Einstein shit or whatever, you know?
That comes down to an interest level in it. So some people aren't interested in the history. Some people aren't interested in modern day politics. Some people aren't interested in today's historic events that are happening around them. So there's some people that are like super duper into this thing or that thing, and that's all they do. Like, and TikTok's a great thing of that. You find your niche and then you do that. It dumbs you down. Sure, because you don't think of anything else, because you can hyperfixate on one thing over and over and over, the same thing, without looking at anything else around you.
Yeah, I think that leads to another problem, which is like damaging people's brains, honestly. Because what you need to have in order to have a healthy brain is a certain level of neuroplasticity, which requires that you have different stimuli that your brain has to adapt to on a regular basis. And your brain is kind of like a muscle, right? If you're not using it actively in new ways and challenging it in different ways, then you tend to lose it. You tend to like slip into senility at an earlier age because you worked at a job where all you did was drive a truck. You know, no offense to the truck drivers out there. I'm just using that as a fucking, for instance. And you did that for 40 fucking years and you're the expert truck driver to the point where you don't even have to think while you're doing it. You can just kind of on autopilot. And so your brain just kind of sits there and relaxes on autopilot. And then pretty soon, you know, and that happens to accountants and that happens to, you know, lawyers even, because they just deal with a specific like area of law and they're experts at that specific thing, or engineers even. Like I'm not picking on truck drivers. Don't think of it like that. I'm just saying like, and it sucks. Like one thing that's like a double-edged sword about my job is that every day I walk into work and it's like 15 new fucking things that I gotta like integrate into the formula. And there's certain things that are like, yeah, I'm on autopilot when I'm like setting up the area or whatever it is. But when it comes to like, oh, there's this new thing going on, new promotion, new whatever, that you have to like know about and fucking understand and communicate to somebody in a way that doesn't make you sound like an idiot, right? Like it's one thing to understand something good enough so that you can just understand it for yourself. It's another level of understanding so that you can explain it to someone else. So
that's true.
And you have to walk in the door, and I swear to God, like every Wednesday when I walk into work, because I've been off for a couple days before Wednesday, there's literally 2 or 3 new fucking things, and I'm just like, God fucking damn it, like really? And it sucks, but that's okay because it keeps the neuroplasticity going. I've heard people driving by on road call the fire department. What the fuck are you talking about? See, like sentences like this takes some neuroplasticity.
Talking about the fire thing.
I've
They're
had
having a
people
conversation.
driving by on the road call the fire department on me for a barrel fire. They drive by and they don't even stop. They turn off the lights. The sirens, LOL, happened a few times. Really? For barrel fires.
Burn barrel.
Man, whatever. I mean, it depends on where you live. Some places, like, you see a barrel fire, you keep driving, you don't say shit. Other places, you see a fucking, like, any kind of fire, you're calling the police. So, depends. It just depends.
Crime rate where you can have a barrel fire is much lower than where you cannot.
Or it's so high you
They
can
burn
just have
barrels in
fire.
cities.
Like it goes from barrel fire to no barrel fire all the way back to barrel fire again when it gets illegal enough. When
Back
things
to
are happening.
hobo barrel fire.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying, dude. There's all kinds of bridges around here that have like, so the hobos will be cold on like like winters or whatever, and they'll gather a bunch of trash and shit under a bridge because the bridge keeps it from snowing on them, and start a giant fire under the bridge to stay warm. But then it like fucks with the structural integrity of the, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it does exactly. Like, I'm just talking about fire bringing down buildings, and now it's going to bring down bridges, but whatever. Would you say lawfully armed?
Cooks the concrete.
Yeah, it does coat the and it makes it look like shit. And it's probably fucking putting all kinds of carcinogens and stuff into the air that people have to breathe and fucking walk through on a daily basis. So I don't know, man. Like, homeless problem is a huge issue, and I don't really know how you solve it. I mean, like, the level of fucking mental instability that is in this country right now, like psychosis that's going on, like, you would have to build institutions on a level that would make the old institutional fucking buildings look like tiny little fucking playhouses, you know? Because there's just millions and let's ask Grok that one. What percentage of the population would have been today would have been institutionalized in 1950? Wow, I spelled that right. I thought
You have
for
to
sure it was
specify the United States.
okay. Today, the U.S. population is approximately 345 million. In 1950, it was 0.4% were institutionalized. So if that same level would apply today, it'd be 1.38 million people would be. So we would need at least 1.4 million people. And that's if we stay at the 1950s level of institutionalization at 0.4%. Do you think it might be higher than 0.4%? Like, if you had to guess, what percentage of the population do you think would need to be institutionalized because of mental illness today?
At least 10%.
Probably
10%.
average out. You got to be judicious. You don't want that to become a slippery slope.
I would think it'd be more like 5%, maybe like 1 in 20 might, but like even that's a little high, possibly. You know, I'm not sure because it's hard to know how many fucking homeless people and insane people there are out there, and like psychopaths, the sociopaths, and like weird fucking fetish, stupid shit with children, like all that kind of stuff. Like, does that all count? I'm not sure. Right, because you can be a sociopath and get along fine in society without ever hurting anybody, or you can be a sociopath that's like a bull in a china shop. So, Not sure how that works.
Looking at you people that pay for feet pics. I don't trust you.
Jumpy Killer says 22.3% of the people in the United States are mentally ill. But okay, so there's mentally ill, and there's like the level at which you would need to institutionalize someone, which I would think would be significantly higher than just like a higher bar to set than just like, oh yeah, that guy's got some problems, you know? Like criminally insane or like some sort of mental illness that gives them a danger to society, like
like the schizophrenics and stuff like this we're talking about.
Right. So yeah, I think it'd be closer to like a couple percent, even though like 20% would probably be closer to the actual number of people who were mentally ill. Yeah, like the number of people that you would need to institution. But then again, there's like people living on the street and stuff. So what do you do with the people who don't quite meet that level of institutionalization that are still like unable to be homed?
You probably institutionalize them. You just don't.
Yeah, you'd be like a halfway.
Don't open up
to the situation or something.
You let them mop the place.
Maybe a hot dog factory. You just, start making what was that, Soylent Green? I couldn't remember the name of that for a second.
Yeah, Soylent Green. Which is kind of ironic because there's at least a couple of Democrats right now who are trying to make it so that we can have human compost in our food supply.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Like they want to fucking take human beings and like chop them up and turn them into plant food so that they can grow corn better or something. So we're all gonna fucking end up in fucking cornfields and growing fucking food for the next generation. Like that's fucked up, kind of, don't you think? Would you want to eat corn if you knew that Aunt Sally died to fucking grow it?
It would be no different than dread at this point, because that's what they were doing with the people. They were putting them into the recycle, is what it is. Like all the meat in that universe was people.
You're like not talking into your microphone or something. I can't hear you very well.
If you get real meta about it, every meal that you've ever eaten, Honda, somebody died to make it.
Yeah, that's why I don't eat seafood, dude. Because I was thinking about this, right? Like, let's say you're a boat full of fishermen and the boat fucking capsizes and the fishermen sink to the bottom of the ocean. Then the fish that they were fishing now eat the fishermen as food. And the next boat that comes along that's fishing for fish catches the fish that ate the fishermen that died. And now they bring them aboard and they bring them to harbor. And they, and now you're eating it like crabs. Like think about like the North Atlantic. Do you know what the North Atlantic is famous for? Crabs. There's all kinds of crabs that crawl around on the bottom of the fucking North Atlantic, and you go out there and go crab fishing, get all those like snow crabs and all the other ones, dude. And they're bottom feeders, so anything that floats to the bottom is what they eat. Well, the Titanic sank. Like a fucking 1,000 people drowned and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And what do you think happened? Like there's like boots, right? Like if you like go with a camera to the Titanic and a submarine made of carbon fiber, hopefully not, you can see the boots or the fucking helmet or the uniform where the guy was, where he died, but he is gone. Where did the body go? Did it just disappear? Did it just miraculously fucking vanish because you're under the ocean? Oh no. It got eaten by the crabs, and then the crabs crawled upstream a little bit or whatever. Not upstream, but you know what I'm saying. And the dude dropped his cage down, and then the crabs crawled into the cage, and then they brought it back up to land, and then people they're dipping it in butter and saying how flavorful the crab is.
Yum, yum.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I'm not sure. It's not
a different
cannibalism, but it's like cannibalism with extra steps.
I just meant that somebody had to like toil some portion of their life away to prepare every meal a human has ever consumed.
Right. I
Yeah,
understand that. You know, like the work that
giant
goes
ocean
into
bowl of soup.
harvesting the grain and growing the fucking, you know what I mean? Or like every time you get a steak, like how long did it take the fucking cow to rate, like the farmer to raise the cow, and he like watched it be born, and you know, like how old are cows when they send them off to like they're at least like 2 years old or something, aren't they? You know. So the dude spent 2 years of his life fucking caring for this fucking cow, knowing that he would just sell it to a fucking slaughterhouse at some point for a couple of bucks profit, hopefully. And yeah, dude, I mean, like, obviously that's the way that, but a lot of people don't understand that, you know, like they're like, well, where does the meat come from? You just go to the fucking store and you pick it up, you idiot. You know, like that's their fucking attitude about it, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because it just denotes like a level of ignorance about the entire fucking food system that is remarkable that you're allowed to fucking live like that in society today. But I guess you don't really need to know where the food comes from, do you? You just need to have money to pay for it.
What's even crazier is how quickly they're getting chickens to market nowadays, because it used to be, I think, around 4 months back in the day. And then it went down to like 3.5 months or like 3 months or something. And now it's like 11, or it's like, I think, 9 weeks or something now. Like, it's a crazy turnaround. And it makes you wonder all those things, because they're pumping them out as like these huge birds.
Well, yeah, I mean they've already had to course correct for that. That's why they had to take all the hormones back out of the chicken. That's why all the girls were getting puberty at like 12. They were like big old biddies when they were like 14.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so much. That's not just the chicken, but
No,
yeah.
not just the chicken, but I think there were some studies that were about to prove that, and then take the chicken industry to court. So I think before they got in trouble, they backpedaled. I don't know. I'm speaking way off the cuff here.
No,
There's several
you're
different
100% right
factors.
about like these untested chemicals that they just produce and then sneak by regulatory commissions, so that we have this like confidence because the federal government has looked at it and decided that this chemical or whatever it is safe, right? Because otherwise, like, think about this. If there was no federal regulatory organization that was looking over which chemicals go into what, then you would by necessity have to be more concerned about how your food is produced, because there would be people who would like be making things that are gross and doing things that are wrong with your food, and there would be no way to really fucking know about it unless you looked into it. And so you wouldn't have that automatic trust that like, oh, the FDA has approved this drug, or the FDA says that this is okay because it's this government organization that gives you assurance that the product that you're buying is safe. So you just buy it and use it without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So they get away with a lot of things that they wouldn't get away with otherwise, right? Because they can go up to the regulatory commissions and then pay them off with their revolving doors or their fucking kickbacks or their expensive dinners or their, I don't even know how they do it. You know what I mean? Like fucking like Swiss accounts or something. I'm not sure, you know, but they're getting paid off, and these commissions that are supposed to be there to protect us are standing aside and letting these companies rape the American people's health to a level that no one ever thought possible. And we're currently living in a situation where most countries around the world would rather not buy our products when it comes to food. They don't want our corn. They don't want our wheat. They don't want our beer. They don't want our bread. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, especially they don't want our pork and our chicken, and mostly our beef too, because of all the things, especially our milk. You know, who fucking knows all the chemicals that they pump into those poor cows that they produce fucking gallons of milk every day without even having a calf. So it's ridiculous, like the food system, the way it is. Yeah, it produces cheap food. Yeah, it makes it so that, you know, like poor people cannot starve, which is great, but it's also poisoning everybody. It's poisoning everybody who eats this food. And it does it so slowly that you can't really point to one particular thing or one particular lifestyle or whatever. And it's so ubiquitous because it's everywhere that it's like unavoidable, right? So how do you pin it down? How do you avoid the thing? You really can't. Like, these forever chemicals are in everything. You got fucking plastic inside of your testicles and inside of your brain, your blood-brain barrier right now. The plastic has gotten by it and sitting on top of your brain right now. Who knows what it's doing? Is it a neurotoxin? Is it crossfiring your fucking synapses? I'm not sure. But I know this. they didn't do a study, and even if they did, I wouldn't believe it. So, anyway.
Well, the one nice thing
Things in moderation.
The one nice thing with RFK being in place right now is JM Smucker announced the other day they're finally taking artificial dyes and stuff out of their jams and jellies in the next year or so.
A bunch of companies have said that they're gonna.
Do the same thing.
PepsiCo, I think, said that they're taking all theirs out by the end of the year
Well,
voluntarily.
and that's the thing. There's things that they knew that they should have done already, that they've been still putting in the food because that's just the way they did it, and they know they're poisoning everybody. But I mean, what do you want us to do? Just stop doing everything the way things have been done and start doing it in a new way? Like, no. I mean, having Kennedy in there and having him even threaten to start doing things has made them grab the low-hanging fruit of, like the food colorings and this and that. And, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. Dude, if they're doing that, they know what they were doing is poisonous for the American people. They knew it already, and they were doing it for a long time because the regulatory commissions, again, have been bought and paid for and allowing them to do it. What's up, Duke?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Nothing. We're just talking about bowl and shit and stuff. Nothing in particular. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Had a good day. Hung out with Matt. Came over to my parents. We had a big cookout. A bunch of people. His family. We all hung out. It was cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. How are things in? Oh, good.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
How are things in Michigan?
Oh, they're cool, man. I mean, they're cool.
How's the weather up there? Like this time of year? Is it pretty nice?
It's warm. Like it's hot for me, but it was funny. Matt and his whole family showed up with long sleeves on. We're all sweating with t-shirts and shorts. And like my cousin was like, "You guys aren't from around here, are you?" Like, no, they're from Texas.
That's funny.
Yes, it was funny, but no, it was a good time. But no, it's hot. Like it's in the 80s, 90s. That's warm for us, but it's not unbearable. We've had a couple of nice days. We get a little bit of a breeze. It's all gravy. So,
how cold does it get up there though? Like in the winter, how bad? Is it?
I mean, you'll have some days that it's 0, and it gets cold, but nothing crazy. We'll have some like advisories where it does get like weirdly cold, but nothing. I mean, like no different from you. We're not.
Yeah, everyone thinks that like Colorado's got this like magical fucking weather that is just gonna fucking freeze you out and make. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're in like the top of a mountain somewhere, maybe, but
yeah, and it does get bad. Like, oh my gosh, it kind of hurts my face a little bit to go outside, but nothing like, oh my goodness, it's the death storm is coming. I mean, the roads get kind of whatever. That's the worst part of it, but I mean, drive slow and take back roads. So there you go.
The guy that comment says that you're an honorary Canadian.
No, I watch Canadian Bacon. We won the war.
You're just Southern Canadian.
No, I get that, but no, we're way cooler.
Dino Spumoni dropped in $2 and said those polar vortex days suck.
Yeah, there's some of those. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, we get those here. Do you get those in Ohio too? I'm sure, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, I've never been to the Great Lakes before. Okay, I was learning about this the other day, and I found it to be very interesting because how far are you from Saginaw Bay?
I'm very close.
Okay, so the end of the Ice Age, 11,700 years ago, there was a meteor, supposedly, and under this is still a theory. It's not really proven yet, but there was a big chunk of this meteor that came in and smashed into what is currently Saginaw Bay, which at the time was covered with like a half a mile of ice, right? And it punched through the ice and sent fucking chunks of ice as big as stadiums up into suborbital trajectories, landing around Carolina, as far north as fucking New York, as far south as Florida, right? Making these like giant oval fucking splashdown craters that you can only see with LiDAR now because they're just overgrown with foliage and stuff. But if you look at a map, you can kind of see how Saginaw Bay is like part of it's almost a circle. It's very circular. And they think that it's circular because it's actually a crater of something that happened in human memory. And like not living human memory, but in like humans were alive at that time and saw that.
A bunch of craziness going on. I don't know. I'm starting to believe. Have you ever looked into the like missing time stuff?
Oh, are you talking about the Gregorian calendar? How they think there was like 200 years or something like that they just skipped over,
or much more. Like the mud. Have you ever heard like the mud flood? And a lot of it has to do with it. The start of it for me was the fair in Chicago, and what the Chicago Fair looked like in the like 1800s, and what it looks like now. And you can't tell me it looked like ancient Rome in the 1800s, and they're like, oh yeah, they did that all with plaster. That's like the story, and they tore it all down. It's all fake, but it's like, no, it looks like a modern day ancient Rome. And there's a bunch of other stuff that just reeks of, why do we know what we know? And the missing time, Tartaria, things like that, Atlantis, you've hit on quite frequently. I just believe that there is a to them to just give us a very short narrative of, yeah, we kind of came from monkeys. We've been ruled by each other for these hundreds of years. This is kind of what things are going on, and it kind of just gives you a very pale comparison to what I believe is human achievement. And I don't know.
The crazy thing to me is human beings have been on this planet for 250,000 years, give or take. We're not exactly sure how long, but we have definitive proof that there were human beings with modern day size brains and anatomically indistinguishable from human beings that are walking around on the street today that were alive 250,000 years ago, right? And there's been climatic changes and crazy shit that happened, but you would think that at some point in the past 250,000 years that some people would get together and start building something out of rocks or something, you know what I mean? Some kind of civilization at some point happened that at some later point got fucked over by the earth, got fucked over by circumstances or a volcano or a flash flood or whatever. It's impossible for me to think that didn't happen. Now, if you go back 12,000 years ago, the ocean rose 400 feet basically overnight, right? And it wasn't the full 400 overnight, but then you also have this thing called isostatic depression and rebound, where if you have a whole bunch of ice that's pushing down on like northern Canada, and then all of it melts and that pressure is taken off of the land, that land rebounds up because it's been pushed down. Like it's able to like spring back to its like original position, like when your ass is sitting on a fucking couch and you stand up and then the couch like springs back to its original fucking couch shape. The same thing kind of happens when that ice melts. Well, when that happens, it's like a balloon too, right? So when you push down on one spot, another spot pushes up. When you stop pushing down on that spot and it pushes back up, the other spot goes down. So the thought is that there was a large piece of land somewhere in the Atlantic that was above the ocean surface during the ice age, that when the ice melted and the ocean levels rose, not only did the ocean levels rise, but there was also an isostatic rebound that happened, that land dropped in elevation at the same time. So it's not just a theory like that. They know that's how that works. And that fact that there's a story about a civilization that sunk under the ocean like that and fits that whole thing is it's interesting. I'm not saying they had like flying cars or fucking like who fucking knows what level of technology they had, but like a level of technology that we would consider advanced for middle, like ice age times when the rest of everyone was using rocks. I think that's entirely possible. And then you look at Göbekli Tepe, and you look at Tarahan Tepe, and you look at the Sphinx, and you look at there's a couple of other examples of architecture that they don't know when it was built, like in Peru. Like the oldest fucking pieces of these buildings, the oldest part of the buildings also happen to be the biggest stones that they moved. And as the civilization goes on and they build on top of it, you can see that the newer, which should be more advanced, right? Because as time goes on, you learn things, but the newer construction they find is actually less advanced, and the rocks are smaller and not as concisely cut, and they don't fit together as well because they lost something. They lost the technology of how to even move those giant stones. They don't even know how they did it. There's a fucking obelisk in Egypt that is the biggest stone that has ever been attempted to move in the history of man, that they started cutting out and then it cracked down the middle, so they just kind of left it in the fucking site. And then later Egyptians used that same quarry site as a place to get rock, and they took chunks of this fucking thing out of it. I don't know, it's funny, like the earlier people were cutting out bigger fucking chunks of rock than the later ones who came and fucking built stuff and made the pyramids or whatever, And that's another one. They don't even know that the people who built the pyramids, who claim that they built the pyramids at the time that they built the pyramids, they don't think they actually did it, because of the number of rocks that they had to move, the number of stones, and the amount of time that they supposedly built these pyramids in doesn't line up. So there's a lot of stuff there, dude. There's a lot of stuff that's interesting. And it goes back to me for when I was a little kid watching Conan the Barbarian and wondering what was in the times before Atlantis was drank by the ocean. How does it go, dude?
Oh, the times. I just had it right, and I was saying it, and then you messed. Oh, man. The oceans drank Atlantis. Time. I watched that movie probably, like 200 times. I was a solid rent as a kid. That was a go-to. I'm going to watch that and enjoy that. Because, you go to the movies and rent movies, and, my dad and I would get a new James Bond movie or a new sci-fi movie. My sister would get, a Disney movie. And I'm getting, Conan, Terminator 2, Commando, Lethal Weapon, Die Hard. Those are always a choice. The 50-cent rental. It was awesome, man.
Yeah. Dino Spumoni's asking about the staircases under the pyramids. I don't know. I don't think they're going to find out anytime soon. Jumpy's wondering what I'm talking about. All kinds of stuff, dude. I don't know.
To go back to previous humans, it starts to make sense when you bring in Nephilim and giants and stuff like that. Because if there were actual giants that were 6, 7, 8, 10 feet tall at that point, or bigger, it would make a lot more sense for them to have the ability to be able to cut out those giant stones and make those pyramids happen. And especially when you bring in alien tech on that, top of that, everything like that.
Well, and it used to be the thought of a giant was crazy. Giant people? But then you look at it and you're like, oh, well, actually, early Homo sapiens, early modern day humans lived at the same time as Homo erectus, at the same time as Australopithecus, at the same time as fucking what's the other one? The Neanderthals. And there's little hobbit fucking things that lived on that island. Who fucking knows what there is out there that we haven't found yet? So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that is interesting and out there and could be found out. And I'm looking forward to finding out eventually the answers to some of this, but I think a lot of it we'll never actually know. Just talking about.
Well, that's also why when you start looking into Bigfoot pretty heavily, those things can be Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you call it. Those things can be 12 to 15 feet tall now. People are saying that are going out into places because they've talked about how they've spotted them on trees and stuff like that, and the tree where their arm or head or whatever it was is anywhere from 12 to 15 feet in the air.
Okay, so Bigfoot is one that I have trouble believing in, and here's why. Because human beings have been walking around in these woods. It's not like something recently that we've had fucking infrared and night vision and cameras and trail cams and fucking rifles with scopes and all kinds of stuff, that at some point someone would have found some definitive proof. Either they were hunting for a bear and they shot one by accident, or they were
so I'm gonna stop you right there, dude.
One, or fucking they find a big fucking pile of shit, and they're like, oh, we proved that this came from a Yeti, or whatever the fuck it is. There would be some sort of proof at some point by now.
So 2 things on that. There is over 1 billion acres of wilderness between national parks and other stuff like that. But then there's also a ton of underground caverns that they're now finding that are all cave system connected between Oregon and I believe it is all the way here to Ohio potentially. So they could be living in these cave systems. They could be living in everything else. It could be a hollow earth theory kind of situation where they're living underground completely.
Yeah, but in that case, you would think like, okay, at some point they'd be building a road or a parking lot or a whatever, and they're digging down in the earth, and they would find some shit, and they'd be like, oh my fucking god, we just uncovered a Yeti fucking forest. Or
you also are under the impression that our government's not going to lie to us about this kind of shit, and the fact that they're the ones that control national parks and stuff like that. Like, of course they're going to cover that up.
Well, I will say this: there is an incentive for like the company that builds to cover things up. Like, there's the story of Blue Bell, right, which is a giant extinct vole that was buried in Alaska in permafrost for the past 12,000 years. And this dude was looking for gold. You know, that's what they do in Alaska. They're digging for gold on their property. And he came across Blue Bell, which is this entirely intact, 100% intact adult extinct buffalo, like specific kind of buffalo. I don't remember what they called it. So he called, you know, the anthropologists or whoever it is, the scientists, and he said, you know, like, hey, I got this amazing specimen of a buffalo, and you guys should probably come take a look at it. And if you want to grab it, I'd be okay with that. And if you need like a week or whatever, that's fine. And they're like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's come take a look at it. And they came and took a look at it. And they're like, oh my God, this is the most amazing find that we've ever seen. So what we're going to do is shut down your entire fucking work site for the next 2 years while we excavate it and look around for anything else that might be on the same level of uniqueness and rarity that this is in that same dirt. And after we're satisfied of 2 years of shutting down your operation, we'll let you go back to work. Oh yeah, no compensation, no nothing. Thanks for letting us know about Blue Bell though. We're really appreciative. So then, like a year later, 2 years later, the same dude finds basically the same thing, except for it was a woolly mammoth this time. He found a completely intact, frozen woolly mammoth that had been sitting in the permafrost for the past 12,000 years, grass still in its mouth, right? And so they had a barbecue. And they fucking, you know, invited some people over, drank a bunch of whiskey, and ate fucking frozen woolly mammoth meat. The guy said it tasted kind of dirt. You know, makes sense. It'd been sitting in the dirt for a while.
Well, it's not even just that. The fact that the national parks produce like $33 billion a year in revenue, if there was actually talk of like Sasquatch, Dogman, etc. being in these places, do you think people are really going to walk in there unarmed anymore, or even walk in there at all for that matter?
There are some pretty weird stories about people who go missing in these national parks in the woods sometimes.
And that's what a lot of the 411 stuff is too.
Yeah, and it's like, some of it's like, yeah, there's probably a serial killer, you know, like dad killed him or whatever. But some of it, it's like, bro, like there was the story of the kid who, this is the one that pops out of my head. He was like playing with his brother and sister, and the dad was making dinner, and he looked over and the kids were there. There's 3 of them. And they looked over and there was 2 of them. And he was like, hey, where'd your brother go? Oh, he was just here. And they started looking for him. And then they started really looking for him. And then they started really, really looking for him. And then they called in help. And they called in a bunch of help. And then eventually they found this kid. Like, it was like a day and a half later. Like 17 or 25 miles. I forget what the distance was. On top of a mountain in like an impossible position. Only wearing one shoe. Who had some crazy story about this fucking like furry fucking creature. Furry talking creature who grabbed him and brought him there and fed him and stuff. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
Well, it's not even just that. Apparently, recently, there's a couple different scientists within our government that have actually admitted that there are portals that people have gone through, and they're trying to weaponize them now.
That's what we need, is weaponized fucking portals. Like,
well, I think the reason a lot of the cases they want to weaponize is against other militaries, so you can basically just take the entire military off the battlefield in like a second. which is even more scary at that point.
As far as national park revenue, Ohio, I think you underestimate the number of Subaru lesbians that have to sticker bomb the back of their Subaru.
What are you saying? I'm confused.
Then I'm overestimating
Lesbians
probably.
drive
I'm just
Subarus.
going for the number that
Buy
I heard
lots of stickers.
last night actually on somebody else's chat.
Well,
Never mind.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't, my bad. But yeah, I mean, there's some crazy stuff out there. Like, what's the name of that thing that all the Indians are afraid of in Utah?
Skinwalkers.
Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch. I've actually drove not too far from there before, but we didn't see anything. Everything was fine where we were at. It's not too far from the border of Colorado, supposedly. But yeah, there's some crazy stories there too of like literally fucking animals morphing into humanoid-like creatures and fucking like electronics shorting out and breaking for no good reasons. And yeah, I don't know, man. There's some crazier stories than that. Even like mutilated cattle and like surgically mutilated and like ways that don't make sense, and all of their blood was drained out, or like their fucking heart was cut out. Like I don't know, dude. You think someone's just fucking with them up there?
I think there's a lot of different things. I think there's alien stuff. I think there's definitely Sasquatch and Dogman specifically, which is a newer cryptid that people don't really know much about. That these think was werewolves back in the day, and apparently, I guess, land between the lakes. They're in Kentucky, and I think it's Tennessee and a few other states that exist in that area. There were two different spots there. One of them, I believe it's the north. It's either north or south. Dogman's territory is there, and then Sasquatch is on the opposite side. And that is someplace I'd like to visit at some point.
Kirk Butterfield says, I saw Mothman. That's crazy. I mean, I've seen some shit, dude. I've seen some crazy shit that I can't explain. And there's certainly like levels to existence that we as human beings don't have the ability, or at least the understood ability to perceive. Perhaps there's some level of third eye or whatever fucking quantum entanglement, whatever you want to call it, that people can tap into, that certain people are sensitive to, that has warned them or shown them things or whatever it is, given them information from beyond the veil. But what is the mechanism behind it? Is there a science that dictates it? Is there some sort of like way to control it that perhaps a more advanced civilization has that we do not yet understand or grasp? Yeah, I 100% believe that that's possible. I 100% believe that that's possible. Is there levels of reality that can open, like we can open doors to if only we had the technology to do so, and others can open doors to our reality because they do have that technology? 100% that could be true. I haven't seen that, but that would actually explain some things that I have seen potentially, so I'm not going to rule it out. Like there's things that we cannot understand because we are three-dimensional beings living in some sort of matrix or simulation, or maybe it's base reality that we actually live in. But
well, no, we're seeing fourth dimension is what it is, and I believe there's 9 that can be seen by other creatures and stuff like that. So it could easily be something where they just go invisible, like Predator and shit like that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like the double slit experiment, or I don't know. There was some other one that I didn't really understand, but they were like, it seems like reality is a computer like algorithm program. It's like an algorithmic program that they can fucking decode. And then there's all the people like looking at the laser. Have you seen the laser thing?
I think so.
Where you shine the laser at the wall at a certain fucking angle and put your eye right next to it, and then you can see the matrix. And you can see like the code of the wall. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I'm not sure. At this point, I'm willing to believe just about anything because it seems like our grasp of what reality actually is either incomplete or completely wrong. So,
Well, I would say it's almost the same thing with the whole conspiracy theory thing. It's not really conspiracy theories per se. It's all delayed reality. It's eventually going to become actual reality at some point. It's just being hidden to the point where they're just like, 5-10 years from now, it'll be like, oh yeah, there is chimera human hybrids that the government's been creating this whole time or something.
like, I've had some weird psychic type things happen before where, like, for instance, I had this girlfriend, we broke up. I still really cared about her, but I was specifically not calling her because I was just like, I'm not going to call her anymore, right? And it had been about 3 months or so, maybe 4 months since I'd called her or talked to her. And I'm sitting there in my house one day, and this voice in my head's like, call Megan. I'm like, no, I'm not calling her. It's like, no. Call Megan. And I'm like, I'm not calling her. And the voice is like, no, call Megan. And I'm like, fine. And I called Megan. And she didn't answer. And I'm like, see, I called her. And the voice is like, call her again. it was like fucking as clear as it was in my head, obviously. It wasn't like audible to anybody else, but I heard this voice in my head repeatedly telling me to call Megan. And I called her 2 or 3 times, and she never answered. Then a couple days later, I get a phone call from Megan saying, like, hey, what's up? Haven't talked to you in a long time. Why did you call me 3 times the other day? I'm like, I didn't tell her that there was some weird voice in my head that told me to call her. I was like, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to call you. And she was like, well, when you called me, I was just in a car accident. I was trapped underneath a 18-wheeler in my Blazer. Both of my legs were broken, and I didn't know what to do or where to go or what was going to happen next. I thought I might die, and my phone kept ringing. And I'm just like, oh, like, fuck. And I'm not saying, like, could that be a coincidence? Yeah, it could be a coincidence. Sure, that could be a coincidence. Is that definitive proof that there's some psychic ability that I possess and potentially can tap into from time to time? No, that's not definitive proof of anything. Is that an incredible coincidence that makes you think about that kind of thing as being a potential possibility and explanation to it? Yes, it does for me. I don't know. Does that do it for you guys?
Well, what do they say? We use, 10% of our brain? So it could be the other 90% that we're tapping into at that point for different latent psychic abilities and stuff.
The reason we only use 10% of our brain is specifically for brain damage, for that neuroplasticity that we were talking about earlier. So, like, let's say you get shot in the head with a bullet, but it doesn't kill you, and they have to remove part of your brain because it was damaged by a bullet, and then they sew you up and you live. Well, there was a whole chunk of your brain that controlled like movement or, speech or vision or auditory, whatever sensations, that there's still wires that are like trying to go to your brain that are sending these signals of like, hey, your left foot hurts, your left foot hurts, your left foot hurts. But it's not going to the part of their brain that fucking registered with your. So then what your brain does is rewire that wire to a new part of the brain and uses that tissue that was just sitting there dormant, not doing anything, and says, okay, now you are the foot part, right? You're that part that registers pain from the foot. So now when the foot hurts, this part of the brain is going to feel it. That's why you only have 10%. And like, they're talking about autism in right-handed boys and how right-handed boys have a higher risk of being autistic. And that's because when you're a right-handed boy, your brain is set up in a certain way. And when you have brain damage, it's harder for you to neuroplastize around that and overcome those deficiencies. Versus if you're a left-handed boy, like your brain's kind of like all over the place. Like it's not as organized or as ordered. So, like if you're a right-handed boy and you never have the brain damage, you actually have an extreme advantage because your brain is just like, I don't know how to explain it, but it makes you more vulnerable to things like early childhood vaccines giving you an extreme fever and then having some sort of later in life problems because of the brain damage that happened when you were a child. If that makes sense. God damn it, why do I know all this shit?
So right
I don't
is
know.
right.
But one thing
Well,
I do know,
well, didn't they have something too that like as far as like DNA that like we have like a lot of extra stuff. I remember seeing a metal thing about that.
Well, we have more chromosomes than I think there's like one other creature on the planet that has the same number of chromosomes as us. So that's kind of weird. That we have more chromosomes than everything except for like I forget what it is, but and then if you compare us to like chimpanzees, it's like yeah, we've got an extra set of chromosomes from the chimpanzees, even though we share 99 or 97% of our DNA is exactly the same as a chimpanzee. We have an entire fucking extra chromosome. Like what? A set of chromosomes too. It's not just one because they come in pairs. I mean, let me look that up. Make sure I'm not bullshitting everybody.
well, one thing I do know is that being autistic for my entire life, pretty much after the original childhood vaccines, I guess what it was. After that, I did develop some stuff where I can now see precognitively in my dreams and stuff. I've had a lot of precognitive visions that have come true after dreaming and stuff over the years. It started when I was about probably 7 or 8, and then about the time I was about 14 or 15, give or take, it kind of shut off during puberty times, and then it came back in my early 20s.
Oh shit. The African butterfly fish has 174 chromosomes. And a horse has 64 chromosomes. I did not know that. We have 46. How about chimpanzees? How many chromosomes do chimps have? So they have 48 chromosomes. And we have 40. So they have two. They have more than us. I was backwards. Weird. We're fucking mutants, bro. We're fucking mutants. That's what I know. God's favorite. That's why I like eating lamb. Because it's God's favorite fucking food. It's lamb.
That's pretty good.
Lamb is pretty delicious. I would highly recommend if you haven't tried lamb before. Although you do have to look out for the Middle Eastern people when you're doing it, though. Usually. Were you going to say lawfully armed?
Like lamb kebab.
I have no idea what you just said.
I think it's about lamb kebabs.
Lamb kebabs. Okay.
Yeah, because I've had some of that, or the like they make it in a wrap. When you go to some of those Middle Eastern places. So yeah.
Why is Skipper Canyon okay?
He's like the new Mark.
Anti-Semite Semites in the chat.
It's either Mark Malone or Snuffleupagus coming back around.
Snuffleupagus. You son of a bitch. Well, I'm going to put you in timeout while you think about it. Greek-style lamb sandwiches are pretty good. I've never had a Greek-style lamb sandwich.
They're good.
But now I want a lamb sandwich. Where can I find a lamb sandwich? Maybe that's
A Greek restaurant, probably.
Greek, or if you want to go to some Arabic areas too, because I'll make them like a wrap and everything. It's, like that.
Get you a gyro.
Yeah, gyro, yeah.
Okay, lamb sandwich.
Shit, county. You want to go to that place in Hawthorne? That's where you can go.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of places I can get a lamb. There's Gyro Town and Golden Falafel and Beauforest.
Yeah, So you got plenty of
Golden waffle.
Golden Falafel. Chiba Hut. Gyro Town. Is it Gyro? Gyro?
totally gyro. I think that's the actual proper term, but yeah.
Moxie Eatery. Crave Mediterranean. Actually, I've tried that place, the Crave. Not a fan. Not a fan. It wasn't that good. Maybe it was just what we ordered. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, there's some hit and miss places like anywhere. So yeah.
French dip. You guys are making me hungry. I was fine until we started talking about fucking lamb and.
I had me a bowl of ramen, you know, with like pork belly and all types of other stuff on it. Was it like hours ago? Yeah.
Okay, so everyone's like ramen. Oh, it's so good. Ramen. You gotta get the pho. Get the pho. Pho you. Not a fan. I don't really like it that much. I think it's okay, but I don't see like why everyone fucking loves it so, and why there's like so many restaurants that are just like, oh, all we serve is pho. Pho for you.
Just hot, dirty
Well, yeah.
dishwater. With
Well, yeah,
noodles.
pho is like a
Because it's all the
different
Asians.
style of stuff.
It's like Asian spaghetti. It's cheap and you can serve it up fast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the funny part. That stuff ain't really that cheap. Well, maybe pho, but nah, not ramen.
I don't know. Again, it's okay. I guess, you know, like the pork belly is pretty good, but and the broth is tasty, I suppose. But I'm, you know, just too many noodles. Fire Guy says I've eaten pho 2 times a week for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I know people that eat pho like that.
Again, I don't hate it. It's just it's not my go-to. Like if everyone's like, "Hey, we're gonna go get pho," I'm like, "All right, let's get pho." You know, like I'm down.
Yeah.
But like they're like, "Hey, Honda, what do you want for dinner?" I'm never like, "Hey, let's get pho."
Well, no, because the place
Like
I
a
go
steak and
to
potatoes.
is out in Gardena, so definitely like used to be like Japanese area around. So when I take certain people there, yeah, they love it. Or especially get like the one there's one I call the overload. So that's like pounds of meat just all in that fucking ramen bowl and stuff. They give you the pho, the spare ribs, all the other stuff. But yeah, but I get you. My go-to is more like let's get the Mexican food.
But I like rice though. Is the thing. I don't like the new. I was
Okay, so you're more of a
force-fed
rice guy.
noodles when
Yeah,
I
I
was a
got you.
kid. Like, oh, you have to like these Asian noodles because they're so good and everyone likes them. Eat these noodles, and I gotta shove them down my throat to the point where I'm not a noodle fan now.
I mean, I love rice too. I'm just trying to cut down on the rice.
Tack
How
that.
she is. Hamburger helper.
I mean, that's all spaghetti was back in the day. Was the original hamburger helper. He's thinking noodles, thing of sauce, pound of hamburger meat. Boom, you got dinner. Can of green beans and some fucking garlic toast. You're in fucking business, baby.
I never had green beans in my spaghetti. That just seems weird.
Green beans and spaghetti, those they go together, man. A can of green beans with your fucking homemade, not homemade spaghetti is a classic choice.
We would always do ham, green beans, potatoes together as a meal.
Yeah, done the potatoes and the green beans. Or I had like
green beans.
like some other pork chops and gravies, and I had like some green beans and stuff.
Well, tomorrow I will be okay. So I went to when everyone came out for the motorcycle trip that we did recently. We were going to do a day where we did a bunch of road riding and went up to do some twisties and stuff. And we didn't get to do that because we stayed in the fucking mountains and did the dirt roads and the trails the whole time, which was totally cool and fun. And I enjoyed the shit out of that. But I wanted to show everybody the twisty roads, specifically one path, one trail, one whatever run that we were going to do together that we didn't end up getting to do. I did it the other day on the bike, and I got the first half of it on camera, and I did the fucking thing again where my finger pressed the button and zoomed everything in, and it ruined the good part on the way back, which sucks. But what's cool is I can do it again tomorrow. So tomorrow I will be doing it's called Lookout Mountain. So it's You go up I-70, and then you go to Lookout Mountain Road, which takes you to like the top of a fucking, like literally exactly what you think it is, right? And then you go from there to Golden, Colorado. So you're on this mountain way above Golden, and then you end up right by Coors Brewery, basically. And it's a really fucking cool ride. Kind of scary, honestly. Not too bad for me. Like I've been riding those kinds of roads for a while now, but there's certainly spots where if you go over the rails, you're not going to live. It's not like, oh, you're going to be fucked up. It's like, no, you're just dead. So there is that part of it where it's like, oh man. And there's crosses and memorials and stuff all up and down the fucking road from where people have done just that. So it's kind of like a reminder of when you're doing it. So I never go too fast on it because, like that's how you have a bad day. But it's nice to go a little bit quick on the road. Although I was riding on it one time, we were coming down. It was just me actually. And there was a guy on a bicycle in front of me, and like the bicyclist ride from Golden all the way up this windy fucking road, like probably 3,000 feet of elevation change to the very top, right? And then they coast down, and this guy was fucking hauling so much ass on his bicycle that I couldn't pass him on a fucking sport bike. And it was kind of cool. And I wish that I had it on, I wish I had recorded it, but it's okay. Well, hey guys, it's been almost an hour and a half, which is about how long we normally go for the Gay Frog chat. So I appreciate everyone for being here. Does anyone have, before we go, anyone have any subjects that they'd hoped that we would have talked about tonight that we never got to?
Yeah, that piece of shit Chuck Schumer forcing whole reading of that big beautiful bill and trying to fuck up Trump's signing of it. They got through it in about 16 hours last night.
Yeah, we got fucked in it.
Yeah, but that's like, okay, so he's having people read, as far as I understand, Chuck Schumer is like, as a political point, is like, oh, we're going to read the entire big, beautiful bill for everyone to hear how big and stupid it is. The problem is you're having people, you're not like the senators aren't reading it. It's not like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't spending fucking an hour of her time reading it and like passing the shoe off to the next person or whatever. They're like staffers and low-level people or whatever, and they're speaking very monotone, and these bills are complicated and they require a level of understanding. So you just reading the bill monotone, first of all, no one's going to listen to that because why would you? And then second of all, even if you are listening to it, it's not like you're going to fucking understand the nuanced fucking nature of how these bills work when it's like, I don't know, as a for instance, like part of this thing, they were trying to reduce the amount of money that they were spending on Medicaid, and what they did was pass as part of the bill, or at least put in the big beautiful bill, that the states have to reduce the amount of Medicaid they're giving to people. It's like, okay, why is that in there? Well, unless you know that the federal government also match the amount of Medicaid money that the states put in, then you wouldn't know that they're tacitly reducing the amount of Medicaid money that they were putting in. It would just sound like they're making the states do it for some reason, which is weird, but whatever, I don't really care. Oh, it's so that you can reduce your own amount of spending without actually reducing your own spending. And then when people ask you about it, you just say, well, the states reduced theirs and we're just matching them. So that's what we've always done. As a for instance.
When they were discussing it, Amy Klobuchar went on the whole tirade about, oh, it's going to cut off 60 million people's Medicaid, even though she didn't admit that it was 16 million illegals that are on Medicare now.
Yeah, did you hear about how California just balanced their budget overnight?
No, I didn't hear about that one.
There were $12 billion in budgetary shortfall for the year. And they're like, Gavin Newsom's like, finally getting heated about the situation and wanting to do something about it. So what does he do? Decides to stop paying for the medical bills of illegal immigrants. And like magically.
Yeah, but he's got to get ready for that. He's got to get ready for that 2028 run for president. Though.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him to be gone this year. I got this year left.
All right, guys. Well, again, thanks for being here. We appreciate everyone. Deuces, y'all. Shall not pee in fridge. True with a shop and to pressure. Batacath care. Prec the troops. 3 words. Made in America. Wait, that's only 2 words. And we'll see y'all next time. I want to talk to you, motherfucker.
Now.
I want to talk to you, motherfucker. Call me. Call me. Call me.